Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Talawanda Board of Education meeting. Before we start the meeting, I wanted to remind everybody that if you would like to participate in the public session part or the comment section, please go to the chat box. Please type in your comments. Remember, it only takes 250 characters per time, so you might need to do it a couple times or 3 times, depending on how much you're writing. You can start entering your comments right now. And if you're using multiple text boxes, what I would say, I would start it out as first, second, third, last, or first, second, last, or first, second, third, fourth, last. So that way, when Mrs. Morse reads your comments, she will know which one was first, second, third in that order and will be able to articulate it. Please remember, you must live within the Talawanda School District. Please give your name, the area address that you're living in, and Mrs. Morse will read the comments. And again, once the public comment section and time is done, we will not take comments or read comments after that point in time. But it is open right now. Thank you and welcome. And now President Otto will facilitate the meeting.
Good evening. Would you please call the roll?
Dr. Howard?
Here.
Dr. Knight Aboids?
Here.
Mead?
Here.
Otto?
Here.
Dr. Roberts?
Present.
All right. Could I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss?
To consider the employment of a public employee and the compensation of a public employee.
So could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Could I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Would you please call the roll?
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Dr. Knight Aboids?
Yes.
Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes. We're going to executive session. Thank you. All right, so we're back in open session. Would you please join me in, do you have a recommendation, Dr. Thoreau?
I do. It is recommended that the board approve the agenda as presented.
So do I have a motion to approve? So moved. Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Dr. Howard?
Yes.
Dr. Knight Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Mead? Yes. Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, Mr. Mead, do you have a report on the Butler Technology and Career Development School?
Yes. First of all, Butler Tech graduation. Like Talawanda plan on opening. Backup plans. Interesting thing going on there is Superintendent, Mr. Graff, is involved in a book study club with about 40 pretty much it for Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Mead. Dr. Knight Abowitz, do you have a legislative liaison report?
Yes, thanks. The governor announced state policy for reopening schools last week, as you know. Local control is reinforced in those plans, and those plans are obviously informing the plans that we're starting to talk about tonight, later in the meeting. The governor is also going to be forthcoming on educator evaluation in the next few weeks. The governor also talked about state funding and talked about gave us the information that there would be a reduced level of funding for FY21, the year we're entering, and it'll be down by around 3.7% in the state foundation payments. This is around the percentage we got cut in the spring of 20, and this is extending into next year. The General Assembly is working on a bill to appropriate funding for school construction projects, and we were told that bill is nearly ready to be signed by the governor. And then there's another bill, House Bill 606, that provides additional liability protections for schools in the upcoming year around the coronavirus, but that bill is not finished and it's not clear when it will be. We also got an update legislatively about the HEROES Act. The Senate, this is in the Senate, and it would make $3.2 billion available for Ohio's public schools and other COVID-related provisions, financial provisions. And so we were asked to call our senators and ask them to support this legislation. And then finally, I provided comments on a public comment period for the U.S. Department of Education, which released new rules on the CARES Act funds, which took effect on July 1st, but we're in a public comment period around those rules. And basically, the new rules allow private schools to get funding from the CARES Act. And we believe that is a I believe that is a misinterpretation of federal legislation around Title I eligibility and funding provision. And this is a statement, this is a position that's also being taken by Ohio School Board Association. So I provided some comments on the U.S. Department of Ed rule around what I think is a misuse of government funding. And that's all the updates.
Thank you very much. Dr. Howard, do you have a report on arts and athletic?
I do not have anything to report. I assume athletes have still been working, following all those protocols, social distancing, and
Yes,
small groups.
we've had no issues so far, knock on wood. We're following all the procedures and protocols, and we've expanded to include more athletes in the strength training and the conditioning, and I've seen the kids here, and the kids are really happy to be back.
I also haven't heard anything specific about direction from the Ohio High School Athletic Association about what's happening with sports in the fall. That's still kind of up in the air, isn't it?
You're exactly correct. They're a little bit behind, so I think we just have to wait a little bit more. I think they're waiting to see what's happening with the virus because it is spreading, so I'm thinking they're waiting to make a decision that will be firm.
Good, great, thank you.
All right. Student Achievement Academic Liaison, Dr. Roberts, do you have a report?
I was going to say that I really didn't, but I do. Because I wanted to, first of all, thank Mrs. Gregg for sending out to us a couple days ago about the College Credit Plus, end of the year kind of thing, and I asked some questions. And as always, she was so gracious and sent back and said, we can talk more about this. So in the future, not today, don't want to add that banana to the plate and causes everything to fall right now. But I would suggest that perhaps, because it's not only, as you said, it's not only St. Clair, but it's Miami, it's NKU, and I think it would be good information, not only for me as a board member, but for our community. So that would be in the future, student success. And thank you.
Very good. Resolutions and presentations, Dr. Thoreau?
Good evening, everybody. So on our virtual part, not here, we have Mary Lynn Bierman, who is part of our food service department, and she's going to provide an update. Welcome, Mary Lynn.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Okay. I just want to run over our number.
Dearman is part of our food service department, and she's going to provide an update.
Okay. Are you ready? All right. Hello, and I hope everyone is well. I want to give you a brief recap of the year. I cover a PowerPoint for the board to review prior to the meeting. And although at first glance, our numbers seem rather large, which was not expected or anticipated, but neither was COVID. So COVID really impacted our department rather significantly. Considering we had 43 calamity days from March to May, we were only down $12,600 in sales. So you can go ahead to the, to that slide. So that's the recap right there is what we did for the year. So the 71,000 is the number that I said was rather large and not expected. If you want to flip to the next screen, Andy, you can. Okay. Because of COVID, we were down $12,000 in sales. However, it could have been much worse. With the help of the amazing work of our community, with education staff and teacher staff, even though we had COVID and we were shut down, we were still able to serve 33,000 lunches and as well as 33,000 breakfasts, which was amazing. We actually served 30 additional days because we served breakfast and lunch in June, as well as over spring break in the last week of May, which were not normal service days for us. So with the decrease of sales and prior to COVID, we had bought some pretty expensive equipment because we were just bleeding with repairs to the tune of like $25,000. So if you back those numbers out of the loss, we're really net about 33,000, which again is trending in the right direction. A couple years ago, $83,000 in losses. Last year we were about 49, so we're still trending in the right direction, which is without just cutting staff or anything. We're doing that without being able to cut people off their job. You can go to the next slide. So in anticipation of COVID, I mean, that's going to be our main priority for coming into 2021. How we're going to serve the kids and how we're going to continue to make our food service department successful. So that's what I'm working with all the building principals with. I think the education for the elementary schools and the middle school are set. We have a plan, and we're still working together with the high school to develop service and how we're going to present that to kids. So are there any questions? I know I talked really.
Thank you, Mary Lynn. Appreciate that.
Well, I did want to mention, and we are probably one of the highest schools in Ohio with our commodity spending. At the end of the year, we were at 245% of our allotment, which is pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. And we appreciate your work. And I know this year has been an interesting year with the COVID-19. And I really want to thank you for all of your work and support with providing meals, breakfasts, and lunches to many of our students through the month of June. Thank you.
Welcome. I really enjoyed working. I mean, I know COVID was not expected, but it really, I think, helped the community and schools come together. I really, I really enjoyed working with the staff and getting them out with the help of Amy and Stephanie. It was really, it was almost enjoyable. And I think I'm leading into Amy's presentation. She's going to talk about a little bit more.
So with that, you are correct. Amy Misechko and Stephanie Jones are presentation number B, which continues the updates on the food services during COVID-19 pandemic. Welcome, Amy and Stephanie.
Thank you very much, Dr. Thoreau. I am going to be presenting tonight on behalf of Stephanie Jones and myself, and sharing a little bit, as Mary Lynn alluded to, the amazing collaboration that took place to make our food distribution program possible. So for 14 and a half weeks, we were able to distribute breakfasts and lunches at the following locations listed. And a huge thanks to those community partners who said, yes, please use our parking lots, please use our space to ensure that our students throughout the entire Talawanda School District, which we realize is a large area, would have access to food. We also, thanks to our volunteers, were able to deliver food to those that couldn't get to a site. So by utilizing our social workers and reaching out and saying that you would need a delivery, we made that happen for our families. This slide is overwhelming, but the support from our community and staff was absolutely overwhelming. It took everyone to make this possible. from Jim, the custodian at Kramer, to our facilities department, to our cafeteria staff, and specifically Mary Lynn and her assistant Bree. We couldn't have done it without them. Over 90 staff members helped throughout these 14 and a half weeks at the 12 different sites. Crossroads Church was there every week providing coffee for the volunteers and helping to pack meals. Envision Partnerships, the Chamber of Commerce and other businesses helped collect boxes for us and supplies that we needed. Miami University Athletics provide books. So Friday, we could provide hygiene items and books and other types of supplies for our families. It was truly a community effort, and all of these partners deserve a huge thanks for making this possible. So we certainly had our volunteers behind the scenes, right? So our food service staff came in on multiple days throughout the week to prep the food, package the food, so that when we got there on Monday mornings, we could start assembling the bags. And as you'll see at the slide at the bottom there with Jim, our custodian, we packaged 5 breakfasts and 5 lunches for every student in a bag, and it took a team to make that happen. And then the food went out to our 12 different sites. And as you can see, in the pouring rain, in the cold weather, and in the sunny weather, they were out there, and our staff was absolutely overwhelmed. I think it warmed their hearts to have an opportunity to see their kiddos. And we were never without staff saying, how can I help? And we're willing to be there to support this initiative. So over the course of the 14 and a half weeks, we fed over 6,000 students with over 61,000 meals prepared. And that's what the Kramer Gymnasium looked like every Monday before the cars came and we loaded them up with the milk and the meals. These meals were amazing, and that is to the credit of Mary Lynn and our food service department. Every meal included a fresh fruit and vegetable, a variety of different kinds of entrees, and juice and milk. All students, regardless of age, income, or any other factor, were able to come and receive these meals. The fresh produce was awesome. And these are just some pictures of what was put into the meal. And as you could see, students were getting well-balanced, nutritious meals with, I know what I heard from some students, they were just excited to have some of their school favorites when they weren't able to be at school. And I think it was comforting to many of our students to have those at this time in their home. And I think these pictures truly sum up the essence of this initiative, whether it's our staff interacting with students or these 2 students who came and picked up their food and took it home in a wagon. During a very stressful, uncertain time, our district and our community made it possible for students to have a basic need of theirs met, and we were able to provide some certainty and support to our families. So on behalf of Stephanie Jones and myself, I would like to thank all of our staff members and community partners who made this possible, and just reiterate how proud we are to be part of this Talawanda community. Thank you.
Mary, Stephanie, and Amy, thank you so much for helping our community. At this point, we'd like to welcome visitors for the public participation.
Are you ready for me?
We are ready for you.
Okay. So we have several today. I'm going to start with Brenda Wright, 6075 Dunwoody Road in Hamilton. Brenda is the president of the Classified Staff Association, and here are her comments. I would like to express my appreciation for the many years of service to the retiring classified staff. Thank you to Lynn Stivers for helping the staff and students in the front office of the high school for the past 14 years. A special thank you to Butch Hayes and Francis Williams for their 31 years each of service and their many, many years of guidance and leadership on the executive team of the Talawanda Classified Staff Association. Another special thank you to Harla Isaacs for her 24 years of service and for the past 5 or 6 years of leadership and guidance as the vice president of the current TCSA, and her insight and help shared with Brenda and the executive committee. They will all be greatly missed. I would like to invite them all to come back and sub or rehire to share their knowledge and experience with future generations at Talawanda. The next comment. Okay, actually, the next comment was just letting us know that we had a little sound glitch, but our tech department was able to resolve that. Hold on, I've got one more person typing right now. Ed, I just did have someone ask if they could share a comment, but I don't know if there's a delay. Okay, here we go. Hi, my name is Erin Abbott, and I live at 151 Ryan Drive in Oxford, Ohio, and I have a child in the Talawanda Middle School. Bear with me, folks. I'm waiting for the next section of speech to come up. I have 2 items I would like to raise tonight. First, as a parent and member of the community, I would like to express my concern to the school board and the superintendent about their potential vote to approve option 1, face-to-face school, and agenda item G, approval of 2 options for I'm waiting on the next part of the text. August 2020 school year opening. Specifically, my concern is the lack of a mandatory student face covering requirement, irrespective of the current advisory level. We know that the classrooms will not allow for 6 feet of social distance, and the CDC's guidelines for schools state. Face covering should be worn by staff and students, particularly older students, as feasible and are most essential in times when physical distancing is difficult. The use of face covering is not a sign of fear or a political statement. Rather, it is an issue of public health and economics. While no single measure is a silver bullet, wearing a face covering prevents community spread and protects the lives of teachers, students, families, and the vulnerable in our community, along with allowing us to open up economically and get back to learning for the good of the community. I urge you to amend your plan and require the use of face coverings of the health advisory level. My second item is a request for more clarification around option 2, the online option, and agenda item G, approval of 2 options for August 2020 school year opening. It is clear our team did a tremendous job making an abrupt change from face-to-face to online this past school year. Now that Talawanda had the summer to prepare for the new reality under COVID-19, what is the pedagogical approach for your online options starting this fall? My assumption is that if you plan to offer two options, then there must already be a plan in place to ensure that they both deliver an equitable learning experience. I'm interested in having that plan be shared with the community. What percentage of instruction will be synchronous versus asynchronous? What LMS platform will be used, and how will teachers engage students with meaningful learning in the virtual environment? I recognize these are challenging times, and my comments are lengthy, so I appreciate you taking the time to hear my comments, and I look forward to hearing your responses in the future. Thank you. Mr. Otto, I have one other public comment that I'm scrolling back for that kind of came in the middle of this. Okay, this is a comment from Robin Lindquist Grant, 2475 Norman Road in Hamilton. She says, good evening. Children entering 4th and 6th grade. As a family, we are concerned about the COVID-19 trends within the county and the region. And I think that is the conclusion of her comments. Dr. Thoreau, I don't have any other comments coming in.
Mrs. Marsh, we just want to clarify one more time, there's no other comments at this point in time?
Correct.
All right.
Thank you, Mrs. Marsh.
Thank you, Mrs. Morse, and I want to thank everyone for sending in their comments. Now we're at the report of the treasurer, Ms. Stafowski.
First item, it is recommended that the board approve the following minutes presented. 2000 regular meeting.
Thank you. I'll be abstaining from this vote since I did not attend the meeting. So do I have a motion to approve the minute?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Could you please call the vote?
Dr. Roberts.
Yes.
Dr. Knight Abowitz.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Mr. Mead.
Yes.
And I'll abstain.
Item is approval of the gifts. Recommended that the board approve as presented. On a side note, that I would also like to thank members who have been helping us with the face mask project. They are writing grants. Half of Talawanda, they are making masks, dropping them off at the board office, and I just wanted to that. We are still in need of masks, so please don't think that this is a sign that we're done. We still need masks, so please continue to donate. We really appreciate it.
All right. So do I have a motion to approve the gifts?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, please call the roll.
Dr. Howard?
Yes.
Dr. Knight Abowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the approval of appropriation budget modifications, and it is recommended that the board approve the appropriation modifications as presented.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes.
Dr. Knight Abowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, D, I'm sorry. Yeah, D. The approval of then and now is over 3,000. We do not have any at this time.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Discussion? Please call the roll.
Dr. Howard?
Yes.
Dr. Knight Abowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item, E. It is recommended that the board approve the financial report as presented.
Do I have a motion to approve the report?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Mike, Andy?
I think that right there is.
It's not working. The wire must be broken.
I mean, you should have your mask on.
I know. Thank you. If you could get me a mic sometime, Andy. I just wanted to make a comment that when we started this fiscal year last July, Mr. Davis projected that we would be in deficit spending by $2.5 million. And we came in at the end of the fiscal year a little less than $1.5 million in deficit spending. And I think that shows some of the efforts that Dr. Thoreau and the staff has made, and the board has made, and the treasurer's office has made to save money and keep spending down. And I just wanted to make that a public comment that we came in way better than was projected even just a year ago because of actions of the leadership team and Dr. Thoreau. And I appreciate the work that they did to help us end up not as bad as it could have been. That's my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mead. Are there any other comments? All right. Would you please call the roll?
Dr. Knight Abowitz?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Next item on the list is F, and it is recommended that the board approve an amended omnibus agreement with the Butler County Educational Service Center.
So do I have a motion to approve the amended omnibus agreement?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
These are all the contracted services that we talked about last time and asked questions, correct?
Correct. And
Because
this
they're
is-
in that appendix, so they're the same one.
They're the same ones. The only addition is our part-time speech person that was added in. And then one of the personnel's fringe benefit had to get tweaked. The
Okay.
original formula was wrong.
Okay, okay. So, because the numbers were just a little different, that's why I
Yes.
was asking.
Yes, we added a part-time speech therapist.
Okay.
That's the biggest nugget right there.
Thank you.
That's instead of having that person paid through Talawanda.
Correct.
It was a part-time speech that our employee, correct?
I do not believe that she was our employee originally.
Okay.
I do believe that we had a person on staff, but they're no longer with
Right,
us.
right.
And so we had to replace that person, and we chose to go with Butler County.
So it's not like it's a new position.
It is not a new
Right,
position.
Just replacing someone.
Correct.
Okay.
Are there any other comments or questions? Very good. Would you please call the roll?
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes.
Dr. Knight Abowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item on the list is G, and it is recommended that the board approve a purchase service agreement with the Butler County ESC for physical therapy services.
So do I have a motion to approve the purchase service agreement?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, discussion or questions? Very good. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Dr. Knight Ebowitz?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes?
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item is H, and it is recommended that the board approve the fund-to-fund transfer cafeteria advance to close out the fiscal year 2020.
Very good. Could I have a motion to approve this fund-to-fund transfer?
So moved.
Who was that?
Becky.
Okay.
Could I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or questions? Would you please call the roll?
Dr. Howard?
Yes?
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Knight Ebowitz?
Yes, sorry.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item I, it is recommended that the board approve an RFP from ALC for student services transportation.
So do I have a motion to approve the RFP?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Mead. Is there any questions or discussion on this?
May I add some information on this?
Yes, please do, because I was going to ask for some.
Thank you. So this is the transportation for students who are homeless or students who require specialized transportation, like to another facility or educational agency. In the past, we had a different company that provided the service, and we had a lot of problems with on-time pickups, to being late and not following the directions. And we worked with the company's president and tried to get it fixed, and it did not go well. So we received 3 RFPs, and I'm not going to name them, but this is one of them. This RFP that we're accepting, if the board accepts tonight, is one company that bid, and it is the lowest bid that we are taking. I am just going to voice my concerns because we do not know much from this company, meaning this company hasn't been around in Ohio and has provided much services so that we could look up the services to make sure that the on-time pickups and everything's going to work out really well. But it is the cheapest. And I think as our treasurer has stated, Ms. Tefalski, we should go ahead and approve this if you guys agree and give it a chance. But I just want the company to be on notice. We expect, and we're going to demand that you follow through with the contract. A positive thing about this contract that they do not have is they do not have a clause in there that if we were to shut down this school year, that we would have to pay 50%, 55% of the contract value. So this is an as-needed or as-used service, and it's still cheaper than the other 2. So, again, we as a board, we as administration, we as a leadership team and the staff at Talawanda, we expect and want great service for our students. We expect our students to arrive on time, be picked up time, and be safe. We know that transportation's in it. It did not work last year. We made adjustments with this, and now we're going with a different company. And again, I'm hoping this company will come through, but we're holding you to those expectations, this company, if it passes tonight.
So in the contract with them, is there a clause in there that says that if it doesn't meet our standards, that we can get out of the contract?
So Shauna's going to answer that a little bit more, but we're only entering into a 1-year contract, so that way, if it does not work, I know in the year we can move on. Is that accurate, Shauna? Yeah.
Correct.
That's what I thought it was.
Yes.
So I think what I hear you saying is that there weren't a lot of people or systems to check references?
So, well, yeah, there are, but their references are glowing, and a lot of them are out of state, and I'm not really able to analyze those references if they're truly true. They probably are true, but I didn't have any other company that I could go out and say, hey, you had a bad experience, why or why not, or you had I couldn't do any of that with this company. I will tell you that another school district really nearby and bigger than us is also going with this company because of their pricing. It's lower pricing, and they want to give them a try as well. So I just wanted to bring that up, that we want to do great service for our families and for our students. All of the board member here agrees with that. And if the board approves tonight, the expectation is that you will meet the requirements of the contract that you submitted. And if not, we will look elsewhere.
Thank you.
So my question is, have they provided a list of all of their vendors that they provide service for?
So on there are, but understand that they are relatively new in Ohio. My understanding is they are a company that will get a contract, and then they do not own any cars, they do not own any of the vehicles, they do not provide the drivers. They go out, and I'm going to call it subcontracting. This is my own language in there. They go out and find another company that fulfills the contract. So they oversee them, the people that they hire to do it, and that's a little bit concerning for me. Did I answer that question for you?
Yes, you did. But I think we're backing it up with a one-year contract. I think that's our backup in the event that they don't perform.
Correct.
All right. Is there any other discussion or questions? All right, could we call the roll, please?
Dr. Knight Abowitz,
Yes.
Mr. Mead,
Yes.
Dr. Howard,
Yes?
Mr. Otto,
Yes.
Dr. Roberts.
Yes.
Passes.
All right, other matters.
Just want to give a brief update on Marshall. All footings are in place and the masonry foundations are almost complete. The modular trailers have been removed. And they continue to have some soil issues. So they even just about lost a piece of equipment in a sinkhole. So they are, they have a solution for it. They're working on it, but there is a sandy layer, like really like, but a sandy layer like very close down, and it's been causing a lot of issues. So they are doubling up on some stone and some rock to alleviate the issue now, and hopefully it does not compromise the stone that they are moving in, so that they are able to use that stone how they wanted to use it in the original scope. So they are basically borrowing from one area stone that's going to be used down the road to supplement the current soil so that they can still get this heavy equipment in. And then they hope to still be able to use that stone down the road for what it was originally intended. So,
And I would just want to add, welcome to Talawanda area. Guess what? There's springs. Yes, there's springs in this area. So as they're doing this, the water table's pretty high and there's some springs, and that's contributing to the muddiness and the muck and the soil issue, as well as the recent rains that we had the past couple weeks. Now, we've had a few dry days, and I have been to the site this week 3 times already, and I'm seeing it start to dry up, but there's concerns about this water and this water table, because it was actually gushing 30 gallons a
30
minute.
gallons per minute.
Oh, my.
So making it difficult
I
for us
know.
to put in what we need to put in.
Yes. So due to, they are already on a 30-day delay, in part to the soil conditions, and giving another 11 days as a cushion, Robertson is now giving us an owner move-in date of June 25th of 2021. Questions?
Where'd the trailers go?
What's that?
Where did the trailers go?
Rob Rich, it was part of his contract that he was,
Oh, so
Get rid of them.
he took them?
Yes,
them.
so
That
we
was
didn't
part
have
of
to
this
move them,
contract.
we didn't have to try to sell them,
Right.
and they were falling apart with holes in them.
Well,
Right.
right, because that's why I asked like a month ago, how's this going to happen? Because I know the mess that we had trying to get them out of Kramer.
So they took them off our hands, and I'm telling you, they're not of value, because they literally have holes in the floors and walls, and they're falling
Just
apart.
to get them out of there so that they can move forward on the construction. Oh,
Yes.
that's wonderful.
Yes,
Thank Rob for us.
absolutely.
Well done.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
Okay, the last item that I have is a funding update. We received our first settlement payment from the state, and it does reflect a 9% annualized reduction. So we will be losing $752,000 this year compared to fiscal year 19, because remember, they already reduced this in the last 6 weeks of school, and they annualized it, and so now they are taking that same cut for this year as well. So we had already planned on them taking a 10% cut, so our projections that we did in the May forecast are true for the foundation payment. So a little bit of a side note on House Bill 164, we were hoping to get some funding back. We missed the cut because they utilized and added in our CARES Act money, and so we just missed the cutoff by like 0.2%.
Yeah, we were 5.8, and you needed to be 6, right, percent?
And I did not realize that they were going to be using our CARES Act money.
And just to let you know, again, Talawanda, out of all of Butler County schools, had the most money
Correct.
deducted. And the reason why, exactly, we're supposed to be rich and the taxpayers are supposed to be able to fund it. And we never got a formula, we never got a process, except to know that was the amount that was cut off of us.
Correct.
Shauna, I heard this afternoon when I was listening to the governor that he was talking about another $440 million for K to 12, but it's going to be voted on by the state controlling board on Monday. Is that your
I
understanding?
did not hear about the vote on Monday.
Yeah, because that's what I heard, because post-secondary are not going to get nearly as much as that. But again, if it comes back that we're wealthy,
We'll get less, right.
We will get less, but
Yeah.
hopefully they treat it as similar to the CARES Act money,
that we got it earlier,
that we haven't gotten it yet. It will be.
but we're
coming-
supposed to.
Yes, it will be coming this summer.
Right,
Yes, correct.
Right.
So hopefully they treat it as that, and they'll get a healthy allotment.
Yeah, because it's 440 million, he said. So they vote on it Monday.
Oh, we can hope.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's
You
it.
done? All right, thanks. Report of the superintendent, Dr. Thoreau.
Before I go, I am looking at some of the comments, and I know some of the board members has too, as we have the public out there. And I know sometimes it takes a little bit of a while to type in your comments. So we closed the public session comment up, and I see, it looks like 2 additional comments. So if you would give me the latitude, I would like to present those 2 comments as well.
Please do.
Okay, so the first comment is from Amy Shaman, and she lives within the school district at Heather Ridge in Oxford. She wishes to echo the comments of Mr. Abbott about the importance of wearing face coverings or adapting the plans so that the children are not packed at regular numbers in the classrooms. She also goes on to state her family has some medical risk, and as they have reevaluated the options that we're providing, her doctors or their family doctors have repeatedly asked us 2 things. Will the students be distanced in the classrooms? And will all students, teacher, and staff be required to wear masks? We are not the only family that's high risk or in this type of situation. The district plan does not seem to allow for classroom distancing and does not require student masks. We realize the challenges of doing this, but the lack of these requirement and options puts her family at risk. And she says, I am confident that the district does not intend to be so callous. I think she's responding, but it feels like there is a lack of willingness to make school possible for everyone. And that's her comment. And then let me go back up here. Robin Grants is the next one, and give me a second to get back up to the top of where she starts. I apologize, sis. I think it starts here. Give me a second. Here it is. Robin Grants, and she lives on Mormon Road. Good evening, she says. Children entering 4th and 6th grade. As a family, we are concerned about the COVID-19 trends within the county and region. Give me a second because there's lots of comments in between. Since our response to the district-wide survey, news has continued to unfold, and we continue to assess whether our children can safely attend school in person this fall. We fully believe that our children will do best in school, especially our 6th grader, who will need to adjust to a new school and a new schedule. However, in order to balance economic security with health and safety, we believe in-person attendance can only be done if I found it. In-person attendance can only be done if, at the very least, masks are required for every student, except for, students with developmental or health reasons, or there's something like that. And temperature checks are done every day. Given the fluidity of the situation, we also urge the district to consider flexibility in planning rather than an all-or-none approach for the entire school year. For example, allow families to choose remote school during the first semester while our county's at, say, a level 3 emergency, and return to in-school person the second semester or second trimester if the emergency level decreases. And she says, thank you. Give me a second. I'm just going to go through just to see if there's anybody else.
There was one more comment from Brandon Nye.
Okay, give me a second if I can find that. Was that towards the top, did you see?
It's kind of in between two of Dr. Shaman's. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, if you could read it, because I'm trying to find
Brandon Nye, he doesn't give his address, but it's a simple single statement. I implore the school board to mandate masks for all students and faculty.
Thank you. And I just want to make a statement. I know it is difficult to type while we're doing this, and we know that this is a difficult situation, have a virtual board meeting versus live. So we appreciate all of the comments. There is no malintent by anyone up here at the board, in the board meeting, the board members, to try not to read a comment. It simply was that we didn't see it, and I know sometimes that's because when you type it in, there actually is a delay between the comments coming in and actually being read here. So I want to apologize on behalf of all of us up here. That was not our intention to silence any of the voices, and we want to make sure everybody was heard, and I hope this helps. So thank you, and thank you for your comments.
Yes, I also want to say I think we need to kind of revisit this, the way we're doing this public participation. The chat function is pretty clunky, and part of what was happening is that people are overlapping because they can only do a short comment. So they start a comment and then somebody else comes in and somebody else comes in, and then the delay while Ms. Morrish was waiting for other comments posted. So I think we need to just have a conversation about whether this is effective, how we can increase public participation in a way that's more smooth.
More fluid. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, we can look into that. speak for you, Dr. Thoreau, and say we'll look into that?
Sure. No, honestly, yes. My hope is, and I know we're probably going to talk later on about this, is, I know that there's been changes with the COVID virus, but my hope is that we are able to open up our auditorium, even if it's to 30 or 40 people. And if we have more than 30 to 40 people coming, then maybe we can have them wait outside and then escort people in so that we can get that. And the reason why I say 30 to 40 people is I've actually measured off 6 feet of distance, and there's actually masking tape all over the chairs here, so that you could cluster as a family, sit together. So we might get a little bit more people in there. But if you're coming in, we want to make sure that you're safe in coming in to present and doing that. And that may be a way to assist on that. But again, we can look at that.
All right, very good.
Okay. All right, so what I'm now going to do is I am asking the board to approve the certificated licensed personnel as presented. We have a resignation of a Marshall Elementary second grade teacher for retirement purposes. We have a resignation of a Marshall third grade teacher for retirement purposes. We have an acceptance of a resignation of a TMS social studies teacher for retirement purposes. We have an acceptance of a resignation of a Bogan Elementary art teacher and Kramer reading teacher. We have approval of teacher contracts, art teacher at THS and art teacher at Bogan, and a speech and language pathologist. So that is the recommendation for 7A, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm blocking it with 7B, number 1, acceptance of a resignation of a Bogan Elementary custodian for retirement purposes. 2, acceptance of a resignation of a THS assistant secretary for retirement purposes. 3, acceptance of a resignation of the TMS custodian for retirement purposes. 4, acceptance of resignation of a THS food service manager for retirement purposes. And 5, an acceptance of a resignation of Kramer Elementary educational assistants. And then we're going to also block in C because there are no supplemental recommendations at this time. President Otto, do you want me to repeat those numbers for you?
I think I have it. So we're looking for a motion to approve 7A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and C.
That is correct, sir.
So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions?
There are a lot of people on these two lists that have spent many years here. And I don't want to single anyone out, but I just want to say thank you to every one of them, because I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of them. And our district has been blessed to have them.
Well said.
Dr. Roberts said, I've worked with many of these people a long time and have done an excellent job for the district, and sorry to see them go, but hopefully they enjoy their retirement, and welcome to the newcomers on the list.
All right. Is there any other comments? Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Mead,
Yes.
Dr. Nidab Woods,
Yes.
Dr. Howard,
Yes?
Mr. Otto,
Yes.
Dr. Roberts,
Yes.
passes.
Very good.
Thank you. The next one is just a correction. So this is informational only. So in June, on the June 9th work session, we had mistakenly reported that Talawanda School District grew a total of 30 positions, 23 classified and 7 certified staff, comparing it from 2018-19 to this past school year, 2019-20 school year, which is incorrect. So I think we needed to correct that because people may think, oh my gosh, we added 30 additional staff, especially when we're overspending what we're bringing in. That is not correct. Talawanda School District did add, though, 5 additional staff as compared to the previous year. And that included a kindergarten class because our kindergarten numbers had grew due to increased class size, a part-time van driver to transport the students, and 3 assistants that were required by IEP or special education mandates. So I wanted to make sure that was on record and clear. Does anybody have any questions or comments for me on that?
So that's good to know.
Thank you. So the next one is E. I'm asking the board to approve an amendment to the previously adopted calendar for the next school year, 2021, so that all students, this would be the changes, would start on August 24th, which would be a Monday, instead of the August 19th, the week before. And we were notified last week that May 4th, our Talawanda schools will be used for a special election. When we had made this calendar before that, we were told that Talawanda schools were not going to be used, so that's why we made it a school day. So that day will turn into a professional development day. So with that, I'll repeat again. It is recommended that the board approve an amendment to the 2020-2021 school year calendar so that all students will start on August 24th, 2020, instead of August 19th and 24th, 2020, and the May 2021 primary date changes to a professional day.
Very good. So do I have a motion to approve 7E?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there discussion? All right, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Dr. Knight Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes?
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, at this time, this is going to take a little bit of time, so please, I appreciate your patience. We're going to provide some updates on the Talawanda plans to open schools in August. We have Holly Morrish, who is also online, that can come on. We have our director, Lindsay Gregg, here in the audience, as well as Director Malone, who also can provide information as well. So with this, I will tell you that the survey overwhelmingly stated that we provided to families that they wanted students to come back to school. We were about 90%. And about 70% of the families would still send their children to school if they had to wear masks. The purpose of the survey was to give us some ideas of what families are looking for. Our surveys are very similar to Middletown's, to Ross is doing their survey right now, to Hamilton surveys. In fact, we're a little bit higher on having a higher percentage of people wanting to come back. So I'm going to go into a lot of information and we're going to come back to this. So I read every comment for that, and I'm going to answer some of them just to let you know. A lot of people stated that they could not answer all of the questions accurately because they really needed to know what the plan was going to be in the classrooms, on the buses, as well as, well, what does that online option look like? And how rigorous is it going to be for that? And are we going to up the rigor on that? So in that, we're going to address those questions plus a couple other ones. So I'm just going to go through a whole bunch. So some of the comments were, can the teachers have outside classes? Absolutely. Teachers will be allowed to take their students outside and have classes pending weather, right? that the weather is okay, pending that there's no allergies for, or medical needs for kids. I mean, any of those types of concerns, but yes, they can take students out and maintain social distancing. And yes, that's probably a great way of having kids be spread apart. Can windows be open in the buildings? They can be open in the buildings. It will bring in some airflow, but remember, our newer buildings have a great HVAC system, and you're hearing a lot about planes in particular, that the air that's being recycled every 2 minutes on planes is really good air coming through. We have that in almost all of our buildings. It's not quite as high, but we have good filters in there. But yes, windows possibly could be opened. People were asking about, oh my gosh, what if a child is sick or tests positive? What are we going to do with that? I can tell you, and I'm going to share my own situation. Well, first I'm going to share, we know that we lost a valued member of this group on this stage, which was awful. I can tell you personally myself that the past little over 2.5 weeks, I've been quarantined, and I myself was diagnosed with COVID-19 with my family. And I am somebody that wears a mask. I am somebody that washes my hands. I am somebody who, my family, my daughter doesn't leave our house. We don't go anywhere. We have one person who goes grocery shopping, and we've tried to manage that, and we got it. I know exactly where we got it. It was a person that came up to us. We happened to be in our front yard, working in our yard, and anyways, we caught it. We were blessed that it was mild. It did knock us down a little bit, but we were blessed. This is not always the same situation. So I'm talking from a personal perspective, as well as this board has concern for all of the safety of every single student and every single staff member that's here. So I know the protocols of what happens when you get tested and you're positive, because it happened to me. So I can answer that real life. So if you test positive, you will be reported to Butler County Health. Butler County Health will then reach out to you, and they will be communicating with you, and they will be checking on your symptoms. Butler County Health will then determine when you will be released. So working with you, working with the information, and you have to be not having any symptoms. In my case, we actually went and took additional tests to make sure the virus was gone. I can tell you, I was the last one to be cleared of it. My family cleared and tested negative. I didn't. I kept part of the virus a little bit longer, but they will provide a letter to you. So this would happen to all families. If you get into that situation, it was not scary. Butler County Health is not scary. They really want to work with you to ensure you are safe, and want to make sure that if you need medical care, that you recognize that and get that, so that you're not home and it's too late to do that. So I wanted to let you know that. Now, it is going to take, and I'm answering some of these questions in the comment section, is what if you're sick and you don't know if you have COVID? My recommendation, the health department recommendations, you treat it like it is COVID until you know better. A lot of people are asymptomatic, especially young. But we want to keep our schools open. So we are going to need the partnership with our families, with our communities, with our staff, everybody working together. And that is, if you are sick, or if you are feeling sick, if your kid is sick, if you're feeling sick, staff or student, you have to stay home. I know that's an inconvenience to families. I get it. And that's in the comments too. If we were to do a hybrid model of come a few days or go online, this is an inconvenience to a lot of working families who are just making it paycheck to paycheck in some cases, or don't have daycare services. But I implore you, in order for us to keep our schools open, we have to work on this together. We all have to be on the same page, It is not to scare people, it is not to politicize, but it is to ensure that we keep out the COVID-19 virus from many of our schools. We are putting in procedures and practices, and it looks a little bit different building to building. Elementary, there's developmental differences than high school. High school, you have over 1,000 kids. Elementaries, we're looking at 400 or 500, depending on which building you're in, a little bit more. So we can handle those differences a little bit different. And the reason why I'm saying that is we are going to want our kids to come back because we know face-to-face is the best education. We also are monitoring the situation. We still have a month and a half to go. So what we talk about tonight could totally be changed in a month and a half. It could be that this virus goes away totally and we're out and open and running fine. But what it looks like, as evidenced from tonight's governor's report, Hamilton County and Butler County are really purple and not red because we've raised up. And the governor is going to wait another week to see if our numbers come down, and he may make some more decisions, or the health department may make more decisions that may negate anything that we're saying today. Or it might be in a month from now, or it might be in a month and a half. I promise you that we will continue to watch and monitor the system, what's going on, and we will adapt and modify our plans as needed. But again, we want kids to come back. We know that's the best education. We know, and our teachers want to touch base with all of the kids. We know there are certain students who cannot come back. There's medical reasons, there's other reasons. We know that. That's why we are going to be talking about the second option of doing an online option for those students. So, would you have to stay in the online option for the entire school year? Those are some of the questions that are being asked. No. We do, though, recognize that we probably are going to mandate a timeline that if you choose online, that you're going to have to stay there. For instance, 1 semester. And the reason why is the platform that you will be using for the online is not the same curriculum map that our teachers are providing. So if you are coming in and out or at different times, there are going to be gaps because they don't follow the same sequence all the time. We don't want to create more gap issues by having students come in and out. And I know that's hard for families who want to make choices. Again, we have not locked you into a choice. We needed to gather information. We are looking around 400 to 500 students who are interested in doing the online. And the rest of the people that responded are more interested in coming face to face, and some may change their mind because they're on the fence, they don't know. It depends about masks, for instance. Are we going to be required to wear masks or not wear masks? How the classrooms, social distancing, how are we going to do that? As you know, classrooms vary in size in Talawanda. So the recommendation and guidance is 6 feet of distance. I have a similar plan to most other superintendents in Butler County. We're all sharing. We all have that same distancing issue in the classrooms. So yes, there will be a problem that there will not be 6 feet of distance between students. However, with the reduction of some of the students going to online, we're hoping that some of the class numbers will come down, so there'll be a little bit less kids in the students, and we'll be able to distance a little bit more. And we're going to talk about some of the other requirements, such as making sure that we're cleaning, we're sanitizing. We're going to require students to bring their own water bottles. And I recommend, and we'll talk about the mask in a minute, but start purchasing masks that students are interested in wearing that might appeal to them, that will make it easier. Now, if we make it a political problem and we have people that are fighting it, what's going to happen, or if there's real fear out there, the virus is going to get into our classrooms. We might have to shut down a classroom. We might have to shut down classrooms. We might have to shut down buildings. We might have to shut down the district. And we want to keep those buildings open as long as possible, and we need that. So I'm also going to talk about cafeterias and hallways. Each of the buildings are working on different methods because it's different at the high school than it is at the elementary. Yes, we will do as much social distancing, but again, it will not be 6 feet. Yes, we will try to limit contact in the hallways as much as possible, but it won't be 6 feet. So there is some liability in understanding this with the face-to-face or in-person schooling. One of the comments were asking, will we allow students to bring in their own lunches? And right now we will, but we're also going to look at our lunches and what we're providing. What we want to do is reduce students touching meals or touching things that they can grab. So things will be more individually wrapped to protect other students that are coming through the lines or are purchasing or getting lunches from us. If a student gets sick during the day, if a staff member gets sick in a day, we have our nurses are trained in this. We will have what I'm going to call an isolated area that is away from the other areas in the nurse's office, for instance, because we know there are students that have to come to nurses' offices for a scab knee, medications, or some medical treatments. But we don't want students interacting with that. So if students are sick during the day, they'll be isolated. And again, working with you, with the families, we need you to come and pick them up as soon as possible. Because the longer that they stay, the longer the chance that if it is COVID, it could be spread. And if it's not COVID, that's great. They'll get well soon, and they'll be able to come back sooner, and we're not going to have issues. Buses. Buses are crowded. Buses are some, as you know, up to an hour, a little more than an hour ride in some cases. If we were to do social distancing on the bus, and all of the other superintendents know this, and we've talked about this, it's 11 students on a bus. We have 30 routes, so we'd have about 330 students that we could transport. We have 2 tiers. So tier 1 is our high school and middle school students, and tier 2 is our elementary students. So we could transport about 660. On a typical day, we are transporting about 2,400 students. So with that, if we did the social distancing on the buses, that would mean we could only get students to come in 1 day a week. We would have to segregate them out, so 330 kids come each of the times. So we have that under consideration. The other consideration is to operate buses as normal as that we're talking about, encouraging or mandating the wearing of masks. If families want to change and not ride the bus, if they can do that, carpool with somebody that they trust, that they have a good relationship to do that, or increase the amount of people that are actually picking up and dropping off. That's important. We are going to eliminate or stop open enrolled students from riding buses. So any student that is accepted via open enrollment, they will not be provided or allowed to ride the buses. We need to get as much distance as we can. Butler Tech buses are crowded as well. And we understand that, and there's going to have to be some decisions about that as well as a family if you want to do that and live within the parameters of The buses will be cleaned after every route. The buses will also be sanitized at the end of the day. And we will do our best to encourage, or if, right now we're mandated to wear masks being a red county. So you would have to wear a mask on the bus as well. Staff will wear masks. That was another question. Give me a second as I look through the comments of this to make sure I get there. Oh, for the bus to pick up and drop off of addresses. I know this is going to be very difficult for families, but we really need to get consistent drop-off and pickups by buses. We can't have students changing buses. Because if students are changing buses, Monday and Tuesday this week they're on bus 4, Monday and Tuesday next week they're on bus 5, what that creates is more opportunity to possibly spread infection and more difficulty to track any student or staff member that tests positive or have COVID symptoms and is working through Butler County Health. There will be contact tracing. It happened to me. I can tell you what they do. They call everybody and make sure. So there's two things that happens. Anybody that came into like an indirect contact with me, they are asked by the health department to self-impose a quarantine. And if they have no symptoms, no fever, in 10 to 14 days, they can come back and the health department will release them. If they have direct contact, the health department's going to mandate that those people go into quarantine for the 14 days or longer if you develop COVID symptoms that last longer. We're not going to allow friends getting on and off of different buses. I understand how difficult this is, but we really need to maintain on buses as much as possible the same people. We need to reduce people contacting and coming into contact. And you're saying that, well, how do we do that at the buildings? We are trying to do that in the buildings as much as possible too. So again, we can contact trace. Can we have teachers switch rooms? We're still working into that process because it does not always work. For instance, a chemistry lab, you're doing chemistry or biology lab, that teacher going into, I'm going to say, a regular classroom without the lab setting may not work. But we are still in the process of looking to reduce as much transition as possible, to organize the transitions, like in the hallways, to reduce people from contacting with each other. We do have sanitizers, and they were installed out in the beginning of each building. So staff can come in, students can come in there. We have more sanitizers in there. I talked about water bottles. I can't emphasize enough that everybody have their own water bottles. Can't emphasize enough that if you have ability, please donate some masks. You can drop them off at the board at the board office. We were hoping to get about 7,000 masks. We have about 250 masks right now. The goal would be to have enough masks for every student, at least 2 of them, and then we can keep some on site. We have washer and dryers if we needed to do that at some place to help keep them clean, and then we can refresh them as needed. Sickness, again, I talked about, if it's short term, like one day, you're out because you have a cough or whatever, then you come back in. But the goal is we need parents to partner with us and take the temperatures of your children. Don't put them on the bus. Because if we take the temperatures at the buildings and they have ridden the bus and they have COVID, we've now spread that COVID possibly to everybody on that bus or people within the 6 feet or anybody that they come in and out. So we need that partnership with you. We need you to help us. Because again, we don't want to close down the buildings. We want to keep the buildings open. We want to keep the district open. We want to keep you safe. Because we also don't want kids catching it and bringing it home to families, grandparents, or people that have medical needs and spreading it. We're also not going to allow any visitors. We're not going to allow any visitors. Administrators will make some exceptions, like when we have to do an IEP meeting and they can't do it virtually or something like that. Mask usage. We absolutely understand. There are children with sensory issues. There are children with special needs issues, medical issues. What we will require is for you to work with our administrators to make that known so that we can make those exceptions for the mask. Clubs, extra activities, we're going to push that they be done virtually. Administration will determine, but my directive to them is we need to limit the amount of contact that we're having with students. So find ways like virtually to hold those clubs and meetings. Athletics. We know we're conditioning and training right now and everything's going well, but if you're watching the news, you have seen schools like St. X and Wyoming already closed. Madison closed indefinitely their sports as of today. That was something that was new because there must be some sort of COVID diagnosis in there. We have not had a COVID diagnosis or anything. We've been doing well, but if we were to get it, we would react in the same way and take precautions for that. OHSA, we're waiting for more recommendations. I believe, but I don't know for certain, that there will be changes to the fall sports, and I just don't know them at this point in time. Pre-K. There were some questions that pre-K students and kindergarten students might have difficulty wearing masks. You're right, that is so true. But I can tell you, Butler County ESC has already started and opened their pre-K, and they are working with teaching the students how to wear masks, and they are reporting zero issues. Zero issues on that. So that's something which is good. Can a child buy his or her own face mask, or could they buy, I'm going to call them a face guard or a face shield? Absolutely. Absolutely, if that's something that a family member would like to provide and do that, absolutely. We will have some face shields available for our staff and for identified students. We know that there are students, like a speech and language, that's working with a student one-on-one. They need to see their mouth. We also know that there are some teachers in there, they will be provided with some of those face shields. But it's not going to be for everybody. We only have a limited number of those. Remember that we're starting 30 minutes later at the high school and middle school, 15 minutes later and ending later for the elementary schools. We had meetings we held over a month. We announced it, and I know there were some comments on like that some people didn't realize that was going to happen. It is happening. The other thing is there was some questions about why can't we start until after Labor Day. We actually considered that. We know that we need a few more days to do professional development, and that's why we're starting later and had that calendar adopted. We're going to train our staff. We need to train our staff to welcome back our kids, deal with any emotional tolls, the trauma, ACEs, hygiene, COVID-19, and that's all going to require some time, and also get prepared for it. So that's why we're increasing the amount of professional developments. We could push it back another week later. My fear is that at some point in time we will be closing down. So I want to get students in, even if it's for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'm hoping it's longer than that, but the direction that I see Butler County heading in makes me think, and this is just Ed Thoreau talking, that we will be closed at some point in time. I don't want that to happen. I know face-to-face is the best, but I also know keeping students and staff safe is also ultimate. We need trust too. There was a lot of comments about trust, and it's not trust of just us as staff members, but trust that parents will all buy into this, that parents will work together with the school on the options if they're approved tonight, and they may change, because things may change, and we will change if we need to change, but not to scare kids, not to politicize, but the goal is we want Talawanda schools to stay open. We want to provide the best, safest face-to-face experience possible. And we understand that you may not be able to do that, so you're going to go to an online type of program for a certain amount of time. And most likely it'll be a semester. So we need you to work with us, and we need to work with you. I know the leadership at Oxford City is also considering an ordinance, and that ordinance may require people in Oxford to wear masks in public buildings and where they can't socially distance and when they're out in public, for instance. So we're following all of that. We're following the Butler County Health Departments. I also heard from emails, we've gotten lots of emails, and from parent surveys, there are people who don't want to wear masks and are going to choose, if that occurs, that they might homeschool their student or put the student on the online option. We have lots of parents saying, if you don't have masks, if you don't mandate masks, then we're going to put our student on online because we need those masks to be worn. I've read all of the comments. We've read the comments. The board has all of the comments on that. There's comments about wearing masks for 6-7 hours is difficult. It is. It is. We are currently wearing masks now at Talawanda for 6-7 hours. We do have mask breaks, and I believe teachers will be able to have mask breaks when they can socially distance enough with their students. It is tough. But again, we want to keep our schools open. We want to provide face-to-face instruction. We know that's the best instruction. We want to keep you safe as much as possible, including your family members at home with that. So with the option 2 that I'm going to talk a little bit to was the online. So we don't have all of the information for option 2. I will tell you our administrative staff, our staff are working feverishly with other districts. Our director, Lindsay Gregg, is probably not sleeping much at nights trying to figure out this issue, but let me share a little bit about what we do know. Butler County Educational Service Center is going to provide a service to school districts that want it. Service 1 from them would be, we would provide a teacher or teachers, the number of teachers to have it. They're looking at a ratio of around 25, 30 kids to 1. And Butler County ESC would purchase the platform. They have an administrator and people that will ensure that the curriculum is being taught through our teachers. Our teachers may also teach in this option a different school district. Say Edgewood joined in, say Madison joined in. I'm just making up. I don't know if that's true or not true, so don't go out there and say Ed Thoreau said Madison and Edgewood's going through it, because that's not true. But what I'm saying is grade 2 teachers. So we give a grade 2 teacher and say there's 25 kids in those 3 districts. That teacher would have all of those students because that would fall in that range. The second option that they're looking at, and we can choose any of these options, is Butler County ESC would provide the teacher and the platform and the people to monitor it. So even though there's still a Talawanda student, they would be taught by non-Talawanda teachers. They would be overseen by Butler County Educational Service Center. Again, Both of these options are going to cost money. So that's one of the things we're looking, and I'm not saying that we want to go the cheapest route. We want to be cost effective, but we also want to be quality too. Our own director, Lindsay Gregg, has been looking at and working with our staff on what would it be like for us to possibly do it ourselves, for instance. Could we identify staff that have underlying conditions and it matches up with certifications, that we could have those staff members teach those students? Now, when we look at the numbers, what we're seeing with the numbers is, of course, it's uneven. And again, it is not guaranteed that you may not change your mind or you may change your mind, because you could change your mind. But there's around 20 to 40 kids, give or take, in each grade level. So that possibly could work out. A little bit easier at the elementary level. Elementary levels, you can teach reading, math, language arts, right? At the middle school and high school, when we get a little bit more specialized, not so easy. Again, I keep bringing up chemistry, biology, but pick physics, pick a subject that, you really want to ensure that the teacher that's teaching that subject is qualified, knows what he or she's doing, and can do a great job. And we have those staff, so I'm not saying that we don't have that staff. But if you only have one class or one unique class of that, how do we pull that teacher to do two things at once? In face and on there. And I know some people, and some of the comments, can we do more of the Google Classrooms in face? We're looking into that as well. But again, it is not the same experience when you're having a kid log into Google Classroom. There's some great lessons that are on there, but the teacher's also teaching the other kids as well. So there will be downtime in that. And I'm not so sure, me personally, that that's a great use. I think inserting Google Classrooms, like I'm doing a lesson on multiplication or fractions, I don't know, pick whatever it is, and then we give that direction through Google Classroom, and students can refer to it, watch it. I think that's a great way of doing it, but that's not going to take up the entire curriculum. We really need a platform to help us. So again, driving Director Gregg crazy, she's looking at several curriculums, and they're expensive, or platforms. Edmentum is something that we use right now. Edmentum we use for our students in our alternative programs, or students who are trying to get ahead and do some extra. It is a great program. It's pretty rigorous, not as good as face-to-face. Again, never as good as face-to-face, but it's extremely expensive. If we want to expand this out to 400 and some kids, I know Director Gregg doesn't have the price quote on it exactly, but I know it's probably going to be in the $300,000 to $400,000, if not more range, just for that. Ouch. So there's another one called Edgenuity. Love it, actually. That's one of my favorites. However, when we look at it, the price on that is over $300,000 to be able to use that platform. The next one that we're looking at, Lindsay, I'm going to need help. PPL, that's all I can think of. In schools PPL. So that's another one that we're looking at. I'm sorry about that. I just keep thinking the PPL. That one's a lot cheaper. That one's about $35,000, give or take. Again, I'm not saying that these are the platforms we're using, but we have to investigate these platforms and see which platform is great, cost-effective, meets our needs, meets our students' needs, and can help. We also know there will be issues with students on IEPs or 504s or have any type of modifications or accommodations, especially when you're doing online. So we're working through that process through our special ed department as well to provide as much service as possible. But understand, those services will look much different than a face-to-face service. There are some comments about, can we do televideos or like Google Classroom? We can, but that does not work for everything. And I'll give you an example. A student that is working on eye gaze. We do have some students that have those needs. Telehealth or teleprompting in there may not work for that. And there are other reasons that it may not work for it as well. Give me a second, let me just look back. So that's a lot of the information. So we will give you more about the online. Again, online you would need to stay, we're most likely thinking a semester. We need to keep you so that you get through the curriculum and that there's not holes and gaps. Director Gregg, did you want to add anything? Did I miss anything for that?
A lot. Reiterate. I just want to reiterate that our online option, a lot of even ask, what is it going to be like? That synchronous. No matter what we choose, that platform, some non. So the virtual classroom will have an instructor, hours for happen daily. Social emotion. That's a big factor when interact and socialize. Feedback and grading of assignments as well as the tracking of attendance is important, especially those who are getting on. Things that I charge of remote is collaborating with specialists with those students as well as our gifted and then we request that either the super house that administrative file for students that have I just want not an easy process to go through. More than ever for all of at the start of school, but we certainly stand around that and we all the feedback that people have. So all this, but we are working hard to make together. And I want to say that we can't that we're doing it. One last thing I'll say that I know teachers really in their heart want to be able to our students, both face-to-face and remote hybrid. But when we really sit down to think about how that could happen, that could happen. But when teachers come back, they are going to try to build relationships they haven't seen and have anxiety over virus. Processes in and then we're asking them also to log in a lot to place on about some other things. And we're exploring
Thank you. I just want to mention a couple more things about that hybrid learning too. I know there were some comments about CPS. CPS is only bringing in students, I think, 2 days a week or something like that, and then 3 days the next week. Please remember our geographic issues here. We're 144 square miles. I'm not making excuses, but our bus routes are already an hour. Understand that we have issues. We cannot do like bring in half the kids AM and then another round of half kids PM. It just does not work with that. We would have to quadruple our bus fleet in our contract for millions of dollars to be able to do that. We could look at bringing in kids 1 day a week or 2 days a week, but we have talked with most of our staff and our administrator. Our administrators are definitely on board that 1 or 2 times a week is not enough. We really want to get the kids in school 5 days a week. Now, attendance, are we worried? We've moved away from calamity days, that we still call them calamity days. We now have to meet a certain amount of hours for high school, middle school, and elementary students. And I want to let everybody know, Talawanda has always been good because we have lots of hours in our day, and we have lots of days. So even by shortening those 3 days and making them PD and that one in May, we are over 20. We could take 20 days off during the winter if we had calamity days, snow days, or whatever, and still be okay at I think it was high school level, and then 10 days at the elementary because they have a little bit less hour requirement. But we have enough days built in if that became an issue. The other thing that Director Gregg didn't talk about, but she's also working on, is if we have to close. So while we're looking at these platforms, if we have to do online learning for a building, for the district, what that would look like. So we're doing 2 things at once when we're looking at this option 2. One for those who choose it, and one for if we close and are mandated to do that, that we could easily switch over, increase the rigor, because I know there were some people asking if we could have an increased rigor compared to what we had. And yes, we are working towards that in doing that. So with that, that is just the information, and then I'm going to go to the next item in a minute, but I wanted to ask the board if they had any other question. Oh, parent family drop-off and pick-up, each building will establish that. We're anticipating more pickups than drop-offs, so anticipate there will be changes. I know at the elementary, we used to bring you in to the buildings, in some of the buildings, and then you would pick up your kid in the building, like in the cafeteria. We're not going to be doing that. Everything is going to be done by cars, so it is going to take a little bit longer, and we're going to have to stagger it, and we will have processes in place, just for your information, because I know some people may want or opt to either continue or to pick up or drop off. Okay, with that, with the board, do you have any questions for me?
So many questions. And you probably can't answer them. It's just kind of a big world thing, too. I do have some specific questions. One is, if we mandate masks, including on the bus, what kind of cooperation do we have from Peterman?
We have 100% cooperation from Peterman. We've already talked about that. So right now, being red or designated the color red, if we were to go to back to school today or tomorrow, we would have to have students wearing masks on the buses and at schools. So when you're going to see my next proposal, my proposal goes along with the current Butler County Health Department recommendations. We've had our plan approved. Can we do more than that? Absolutely. And we've heard comments both ways. Some saying, no, my kid's not going to wear it. Some aren't going. So even though, I'm going to say this right now, that I'm making the recommendation that we strongly encourage masks, I really believe that the board should consider, just like you're asking, and amending possibly that decision to mandate masks. It is the best thing to do. We cannot guarantee 6 feet of distance, and we want to keep our buildings open. And I believe in this community, and I believe that we will partner together, including Peterman, including our parents, including our community agencies and our staff and administrators.
Well, and again, things have changed since I had this conversation with a parent last week, because things are changing constantly. But you were talking before about the density on buses for Butler Tech. And if there's a scenario wherein the county is no longer on, a red or purple, but, we have mandated masks, but other districts have not. And so we're sending our kids onto buses with kids from other districts who may not be required to wear masks. This parent was told initially that
Yes.
by Peterman that they would not enforce that.
So let me answer that question. Yes, it depends on the bus route. If it is a Talawanda bus route and we mandated masks, so it's a Talawanda route, anybody riding that would be required to do it. The problem comes with Butler Tech, and I don't have an answer, and I know John Graft is the superintendent, and he said, send all questions. So if you have questions, families, you're going to need to contact. But what happens is a lot of our kids go to D. Russell Lee, and then they switch buses, and then they go to another site. Those buses often are not Talawanda buses.
Right.
And they may be Peterman, but they're not Talawanda buses.
Right.
So that's why they're getting that answer of they may not enforce it based upon that school district's or Butler Tech's recommendations. And we, as a board, we cannot tell another school district what to do. And not that I'm saying you're doing that, but for the family, I understand that concern. But actually, we don't have control over that. So I'm going to ask them to give a call to Butler Tech to see what they can do about it. And honestly, I'm going to be honest, things are changing day to day. We're hearing Lakota is now mandating masks. I know Middletown is now mandating. This has all changed within the last couple days. I expect more school districts will mandate masks than schools that won't mandate masks.
I think it's important that we, though, consider that if we do a mandate, that it's not we're just going to mandate it as long as we are red or purple. The parents and everyone in the district needs to have that sense of, consistency and planning, that it's not something that's going to be on and off again.
I agree totally with you on that, because one day you're red, next day you're purple, next day you're orange. I don't know what the colors are, but you're in and out. That is not good for staff. That is not good for students. And in order for you to move orange, I guess you're okay. But when you're moving into the reds and the purples, well, if you're in orange and it's going bad, I think that's the time that you should be wearing masks so that you don't get to the reds and the purples, in my personal opinion. And consistency, absolutely. I think consistency will help with younger kids in particular, and it will help with our staff. And again, it's about keeping our staff safe, our students safe, and our families when our students come home to our families.
So I guess what I'm suggesting is when we're looking at your two options and you're asking us to approve these two options, that we be more specific in this option with a mandate with a specific time frame to it, maybe with a qualifier that unless there is some significant development wherein, new cases, there are no new cases in any Butler County area for, 2 to 3 weeks, that we just mandate masks for a certain
So
defined
I
period
believe
of
the board can amend that when we get there.
Okay.
But what I'm going to say to you on this is I don't want to put a time frame on it, And the reason why I don't want to put a time frame is we will constantly look at the data. If it comes out that there's a vaccination and the vaccination works, then we're good to go. Yeah, we'll do that. But what I'm fearful of, we get 2 weeks of good weeks, then we become inconsistent, we remove masks, then 2 weeks later it goes up, or a month later it goes up, and now we're instituting masks again. So what I would like to say in the motion when we get to it is that you continue with it, and we will evaluate it. This board, myself, my team, and we will bring data to the public. And then we will make recommendations on the best that we possibly know to keep everyone safe. And again, the consistency like you talked about.
Right, that we will try to avoid on again, off again.
Exactly. That's what I'm afraid of by saying 2 weeks or whatever. When we know that it is safe, then we will come to the board and say, hey, we need to amend this motion.
I think we're both saying the same thing in different ways.
I think so too. I think so too.
Yeah,
I think we are too.
okay.
I think it's just two different ways of approaching it.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with that. Any other questions or comments before we go into the motion of that?
I have a comment, I guess, kind of piggybacking on what Becky has just said, because, I'm thinking scenario-wise, 2 elementary kids down at the end of a driveway, ready to get on a bus, and one of them has forgotten his or her map.
Great question.
Mom and dad are in the car, or they've already driven out. It's a kind of thing that will happen. Same thing with coming into school.
Yep.
Kid gets dropped off, leaves the mask, and mom drove off.
Or the mask is dirty.
Right. So we
Talk about
will
that.
have opportunities then, like on buses as well as entering school.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Because, that's just reality. And
Yes.
it's not an intentional not wanting to do it, but it's going to happen.
No, thank you for bringing it up, and I'm sorry that I missed that. And Shauna could also jump into this too. Shauna and I are also meeting with our teams endlessly. But yes, and with Peterman, there will be extra masks, like disposable masks on the bus, so if you forget, you can put one on and be fine. We will also have that at school. We're going to have to work at the school, and the school leadership teams in their own buildings are going to have to identify kids that are going to need a little extra help, assistance, maybe have those masks washed. So yes, they will be provided. We are going to order masks for our staff and for our students. Again, this is a cost. This is a huge cost to our district. We are looking at the cheapest masks that we can possibly find. Is it better to have the disposable ones? Is it better to have something that you can wash and more long-term, but they cost more? So I can tell you, Shauna and I and our team are looking at those. We will have masks available for them, but I'm going to put this plug back in. Please, community, if you can donate masks, the Board of Education's open. You can leave them on our porch. We will accept any mask, large, small, tied, around the ears, whatever. In fact, cutesy ones if you can, because we also know kids like sports, they like art, they like animals, maybe even can make a tee for Talawanda, any of that type of stuff. Kids I think, would be more willing to do that. I'm also asking parents, this is the time. We are going to provide masks, but if you can go and afford to purchase your own mask or face shields that we talked about, please do that, because I would recommend doing that now, because everybody's doing it, and I anticipate it's going to be hard to get at some point in time. And I would recommend that you it depends on your kids. So I have a daughter, for instance. And so my assumption with my daughter is she plays sports, 3 sports, cross country, swim, track and field. So she's going to have a mask at the end of the day, if sports are still going for that, so that she can switch. And then she's also going to have a mask during the day. So she's going to have at least 2 masks per day. That's my perception, and I may even give her a 3rd one, just in case if she feels she's sweaty or whatever it is, that she can do that. So parents can do that as well. We We'll try to change out masks if we see that they're dirty or whatever, but what we can't be doing is, we can't be giving every student 2 or 3 masks, 4 masks a day, because the price is exorbitant. And we're trying to mitigate. We know it's important, we know families need help, and we definitely want to help. And again, if you can donate those masks, please donate those masks, because if we can get those 7,000 masks, we now have a good quantity that would be washable and that we could help our families who are struggling, or kids that forget, or whatever that we may need. Did that answer it, Dr. Roberts?
Yes, yes. And I know one of the other things, and you mentioned the sports, if they're a go, yesterday on the town hall that Kathleen and I were listening to, somebody from the Ohio Athletic Association was on there, and he was talking about the fact that because schools provide uniforms and the balls and all that kind of thing, he's wondering if families will not expect that the districts would provide the masks for the activities. For example, he was saying, you know, if football goes, when the young men come off, they'd put a mask on. He was just giving some scenarios or whatever, but, you know, so we have to think about that as well.
That's a good point. And again, I'm going to emphasize, if you can buy and purchase your own mask, I think that's a good one, because you can even have your kids be a part of that. And sometimes when they pick out the designs, there might be some more empowerment and buy into it. We will provide some masks for it, but we're not going to be able to provide 2, 3, 4 masks a day.
Our goal is to be able to order the full masks, provide 2 per staff members and 2 per student, but you're looking at 6,600 masks. I have a vendor dropping off some samples of reusable washable masks, and right now the lowest price available is $2.50 per mask, which is a lot better than what it was, but it's still going to be very, very expensive. In addition, we will have the disposable ones just in case they forget theirs, just in case we have community members show up without one. We're going to be able to hand them one. Bus should have a box available that will hopefully last a couple of months, but, you know, now we'll be giving them an
And I'm going to tell you, Shauna has done an amazing job on this. We are not looking at buying masks for the whole year. What we're going to look at, we're segmenting it, because we're hoping the virus will go away. But we don't want to be done at the end of school year and have 1,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 masks extra. You know what I mean? That we spent that money. So we're going to try to do that too as well. We're looking at semester by semester.
I think if the board chooses to mandate masks, I have faith that the administration will figure out how to implement that and force that. And I know you understand things like students with IEPs, students with documented health and sensory issues. Understand that younger students are different than older students. So I was uptown with my 4-year-old kids who are twins and a 2-year-old, and they had masks on in the 99-degree heat and kept them on somewhat over their nose, but they did pretty well. I think younger students will rise to the occasion. I know teachers know how to differentiate. Teachers will realize when certain students need some kind of break. I have faith our staff is professional. I also know that, you know, in masks in the middle school and high school, you might face dress code issues, because some of the students that I have known over the years would look at it as an opportunity to come in with something very clever that an administrator might have to say is inappropriate. And I think the staff has to be aware of that and be prepared to deal with that. But I really have faith if we choose to mandate it, that the administration that we have and the teachers we have will figure out how to do it.
Thank you. I want to thank you. And I'm going to tell you, there's a difference between forgetting a mask and refusing to wear a mask, right? And we all know that. If you're refusing to wear a mask, a student, Our administrators are going to be having conversations with the students to figure out why. Maybe there is a reason behind it, and that's fine, and we go on. Maybe there isn't. Maybe it's just because they don't want to wear it. I'm going to tell you, then we're going to have conversations with parents, just like we would normally do. We are offering an online option. If that becomes the directive that we need to do to ensure safety, security, we might need to make that move, if you're uncomfortable with it. But I am going to tell you, our teachers are amazing. I know that. I've seen them in classrooms. They are not going to hurt any of our kids. They're going to give them breaks, mask breaks when they need to. They are going to work with the kids. They're going to make sure that they're safe and distance, and they're going to give reminders. We do that. That's what we do in education, and we're going to teach them how to do it. So I do have confidence, and I have confidence in our community and our families that we're not going to politicize this. We're not going to go whatever is against it. We're going to join together, and we're going to be a unified partner during this epidemic. There is no playbook for this, and I know the board members have brought this up to me, and thank you for their support on this. There is no playbook for this. We are doing the best that we can do, and please understand, you may disagree with my decisions, and I understand that, but my heart is in what is right for our students and staffs and making them safe. And it's always been that way, and it always will be there. Our staff is the same way. So if masks are mandated when we come to it, please understand this board is doing that, and I'm endorsing it because they care and they want the best for your kids, and they know face-to-face. We know kids need to be in school. We also know you need to get to work. We also know that. And we also know that some families can't come back for whatever reason and need that online option.
I think we're also aware that it seems to spread less among children, and children seem less affected by it. But I think we have a duty to think of our staff, the bus drivers, the people that work in our cafeteria, our teachers, what kind of responsibility we as a board have to provide a safe working environment for the staff, because if the staff starts coming down sick, we aren't going to keep the school building open. It's going to be impossible. So it's not just about the children, it's also about the adults who work in our buildings, some of whom are more susceptible.
So with that, I'd like to move on, and we're going to item G. I would like the board to recommend and approve the two options for the August 2020 school year opening as presented by the superintendent. So it's all the information that we just talked about and presented. I've written down some of it. It's called option 1, face-to-face school, and option 2, the online, and we've given you information. And understand, we know in a month and a half, this may look totally different. And if it does, we'll come back to the board. We'll come back to the community with that. And understand that when we get closer, we will ask you, if this is approved and stands, that you will need to make a choice online, and we'll be able to provide you with a little bit more, although you heard a lot today, versus the face-to-face or in-person. And I heard there could be possibly an amendment, maybe, so talk about that. So I'm asking for that recommendation.
So could I have a motion to approve 7G?
I would make a motion if I could amend 7G. Is that all right, Mr. Otto?
We can, let's get this motion approved, and then we can amend it
After we approve it?
after we get the motion to approve it. We can have our discussion and we can amend it.
Then I move to accept this.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Discussion?
Like to make an amendment?
Is there any other discussion before we introduce an amendment?
I just want to be sure that it's understood that if a family chooses online, it is for this semester.
Yes, right now we're going with semester. If we were to lessen it, we would let you know, but honestly, it really needs to be a semester. As we stated earlier, we need to make sure you get through the curriculum so there's not holes and gaps
Right,
between the differences between our curriculum map and the online platform.
right. Okay, thank you.
So, any other questions or discussion? Mr. Mead, did you have an amendment you wanted to recommend?
Yes, under option 1, face-to-face school, letter D, I would like to strike students highly encouraged to wear masks at school and on the bus per Governor DeWine's order. All students and staff will be mandated to wear masks when Butler County falls in the red or higher levels. I'd like to strike those words. And I'd like to substitute the following. Students are required to wear masks on the bus entering and leaving the school building and in the school building.
I think we should also look at amending it, also say that all students. And I think you had mentioned something earlier where we need to also mention that these masks should meet dress code requirements.
Oh, yes.
And I think another addition to that would also be that we give the administration the ability to make the exceptions to this policy. So as I would recommend it, would be that all students are required to wear masks, comma, that meet our dress code guidelines, comma, at school and on the bus, with exceptions approved by the administration.
I would, sorry, go ahead, Kathleen.
I was just going to say, maybe extend to that last sentence for mental or health reasons as needed or something, just to make that a little more clear. That's what you're thinking about, right? Kids who...
For documented reasons,
For
not
document,
just I
something
don't
like
want
that,
to.
right.
Right.
I think we should also clarify the language, required to wear a mask that covers the nose and mouth at all times, because I'm seeing a lot of people in different places saying, with the mask on under their nose saying, well, I'm wearing a mask. And kids are going to do that too, unless we're clear about it. This is what we mean by wearing a mask.
So we could add like an R, mask must cover nose and
Completely, yeah.
completely. Okay. Yeah, are you okay with that? Because I agree, because you're right. I'm wearing a mask right now.
You were wearing a mask, that's right.
So, getting to be a big amendment. So we're going to just say all students are required to wear a mask that covers the mouth and nose completely, comma, that meet our dress code, comma, our dress code guidelines, comma, at school and on the bus, with exceptions approved by the administration for health and other reasons.
Documented reasons, I think I heard.
I think that was, yeah.
Or other
for
documented
Or
health
other
or other
documented
reasons.
reasons. Not just because I don't want to wear it today.
So, any other amendments to the amendment? So all students are required to wear masks that cover the mouth and nose completely, comma, that meet our dress code guidelines, comma, at school and on the bus, with exceptions approved by the administration for documented health and other reasons. I have a motion to approve. We do have a motion. We've had discussion. Are there any other questions or recommendations? So do I have a motion then to approve G as amended?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Please call the roll.
Sorry, who seconded?
Pat did.
Dr. Knight Abwoods?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes,
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Carries.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, everybody. That was long. All right, now we're going to move on. We have Chief Jones on the line too, if you have any questions for H. I am recommending the approval of the SRO contracts and memo of understanding with the City of Oxford providing coverage for Kramer, Talawanda Middle School, and Talawanda High School for the 2021 school year. This is the SRO.
So do I have a motion to approve 7H?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion?
I did have a conversation with Chief Jones this morning, and he and I are in agreement about this comment that I make every time we have it, the SRO thing, and that is that our SROs are here for the protection of our students and staff. They're here to develop relationships with students. They are not here to get involved in school discipline. They do not want to be involved in school discipline, so I want to make sure our staff understands that what the role of the SROs is. It is to provide safety and to form relationships, not to do school discipline.
Agreed. Chief Jones, are you there by chance? Did you want to add anything?
Yes, Dr. Thoreau, here. Thank you, and thank you, the board, for considering it tonight. I don't really have a whole lot to add other than just our officers work there daily with the administrators, the teachers, and staff to protect all the school while building relationships with the kids. I think what Mr. Mead said is true. We really try to stay out of the school discipline. That's in the contract. We find this relationship mutually beneficial. And I think especially as we're coming back in kind of a turbulent and uncertain time, I think it's important that we have the SROs in each building. So I appreciate your consideration.
Chief, I just want to also thank you because when we closed down, you were able to absorb the SROs back into your department and did not charge us. So, I think the community needs to know that you did that for us, and that also helped saved us some money too.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we tried to work, and normally we would want to have this SRO contract on earlier so we can make our plans for the fall, but certainly with the pandemic and understanding the financial uncertainty with the school district, we were, kind of willing, although now we're at a point where we really need to know moving forward what our manpower is going to look like. So I'll also say as a parent of the district with 3 students that'll all be in the high school, I think this is really important to protect the kids there in the schools.
Is there any other discussion or comment? Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes?
Dr. Knight Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I am asking the board to recommend changes to the code of conduct as presented by the superintendent. And just to let you know, what we're doing is we're separating out narcotics, alcoholic beverage, and drugs, and we're separating them out so that we can track them better. They're still in there. Just for your information, we are purchasing a new program, a program through Public School Works that's going to help us track incidents, discipline, and in order to do that, we need this to be separated out so that we truly know what the issue was and that it wasn't all lumped together. So I'm asking the board to approve the changes and moving them into different headings.
So do I have a motion to approve 7I?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Is there any discussion or questions? Would you please call the roll?
Dr. Knight Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes?
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Motion passes.
So we have Mr. Malone here if you have any questions for the next issue, but I am asking that the board approve the second reading of the policy that was presented by Mr. Malone as the first reading on the June 15th, and it is the standards-based teacher evaluation system. And basically, I'm just going to give a real quick overview. If you want to come, Dennis, you can come and talk about it.
Just very briefly, just a reminder again that this is the OTES 2 that we're asked to evaluate or to approve tonight. We're required by the state to have this in place by September. We've talked with our TEA folks in conjunction with creating the new OTES 2. But because of COVID, we're really going to stay, our administrators and teachers are going to stay with the old evaluation OTES 1 system for the 2021 system or 2021 school year. So our OTES 2 won't begin until the 21-22. By that time, it's going to give us a chance for administrators to all go through the credentialing process that we have to do. And it will also help them with the teachers themselves realize there are subtle differences between OTES 1 and OTES 2 and how that comes into play. But tonight, that second reading will help us meet the requirement of the state to have our policy in place by September of 20. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Good. So do I have a motion to approve the second reading of the policy revisions?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Abbott. Is there any discussion or questions? Very good. Would you please call the roll?
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Knight Edwards?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes?
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Other matters, real quickly. Please, if you have questions, contact our administrators. Please know that it's summertime and some of our administrators are on vacations and are not working at this time, so it may take time to answer questions, or you can call the board office. What I want to do is refrain from any misinformation. You know, you will get information from us, from our website, our own Facebook, our own sites, but get that information from us, and if you have questions, come to us. And some families had some issues with some communications, like they didn't receive the email or they don't receive the text message. We had a few incidences where we had some emails that were typed wrong. So if you have a problem and not getting emails from us and you're a parent, let us know. But what we've really found, the majority of the issues were that families have blocked us, blocked our numbers, or blocked the emails coming in, and we can't fix that if you do that, or you've called in and told us you don't want to receive any more calls, or you don't want to receive any more emails, which we've taken you off the list. So if you need to be put back onto the list, contact the schools, Mrs. Moorish, we can put you back onto the list, because we want to make sure you get the information. But our websites and our board meetings are really important to hear the information. That's it for me.
Thank you very much. Next item is the approval of the treasurer contract. Could I have a motion to approve the appointment of Shauna Tavowski?
So moved.
Thank you. Could I have a second?
Second.
Very much. Any discussion or questions?
I would just like to say I'm very excited. Donna, thank you for joining us.
Having me.
I'd also like to thank Shauna for filling in on the interim. I know that I've driven by the building many nights, the school board building many nights, and seen her car there, driven by in the morning, and that she's there early. So we have really appreciated all your help you've given us in getting through this. So with that, if there's any other comments, would you please call the roll?
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes?
Dr. Knight Edwards?
Definitely yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other items from board members?
Holly sent me an email saying no one heard my Butler Tech report because I didn't have a mic that worked. I'm on my third mic, and this one works. So I'll just quickly say for the Butler Tech report, they canceled their in-person graduation. They were holding on, hoping to do that, but that is not going to turn out to happen. They're planning on opening in person 5 days a week, and they have a backup plan if that fails, much like Talawanda does. And the superintendent, Mr. Graff, is leading a book study with the leadership team and central office staff, about 40 people. And the book they're working on right now is How to Be an Anti-Racist. I want to thank him for being proactive in his district.
Good. Any other comments? I would just like to say thanks to Dr. Thoreau and his staff. I know Dr. Thoreau was homesick, but it seemed like he called me every day and never turned down one of my calls. So
You didn't block him?
But, and the presentation he's given today about opening school has given us a view of how much work all the staff has put into getting us ready to get to this point, and they're to be commended for their time. So with that, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Do you want to review the future board events?
Oh, excuse me. Yes, our next board meeting is August 17th. And now,
Could we, for the next board meeting, look into having the public show up? Maybe Dr. Thoreau could look into, is that a possibility to have a limited number of people come into the auditorium? We're having students come back the very next Monday. I think we can find a way to safely have people here if that's possible.
So this is what I'll say, if we're all in agreement, yes. But if for some reason we're closed down, not allowed because there's only allowing like 10 people or something, then we will say it will be virtual. And we will put that when we post the agenda, because we should know at that point in time. So look at the agenda. But yes, and what we will do, you will see when you come in, there's tape on the back of chairs. You will sit in clusters. If you're a family, you can sit together. If not, spread apart and sit at those seats. And if we overfill, then we will have to have some people wait out in the hallway and bring them in at times. But yes, we can do that. So let's plan on an in-person next meeting as long as we can. And if we can't, we'll do this system.
With the addendum that Becky meant, that Dr. Howard mentioned earlier around maybe getting the online comment function to be more workable, right?
So
If we can't be in person, yeah.
Because I think we'll still have people wanting virtual participation options.
Yeah, I think we need to look at that.
I will look into it. I don't know offhand of anything else that's out there that has like a chat box or allow. We could allow people to all get in online, but that'd be like 200 and some people, because that's how much are coming. And even if it's 30, then it gets a little bit difficult. But maybe we can do a Zoom meeting with 30 some people, or a Google Meet with 30 some people that are on there. Does that make sense? And you would speak it.
Yeah, I know there are challenges to make.
Maybe we can mute them so that we can, well, what I'm trying to do is mute the sound as you hear feedback.
Yes.
And not create those, but I'll look into it, absolutely.
Thank you.
I'd also suggest that if we are at that August meeting, if everything goes as it seems to be going now, if we're mandating masks for students and employees, we're going to have to mandate masks for audience and for us at that point.
agreed,
Did everybody hear that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
agreed. Mr. Mead, thank you for bringing that up. Is there any other things for the board members? All right, very good. So can I have that motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Dr. Nydavwitz?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Dr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Mead?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you all.